Alright, yan. Magandang araw mga kabatas natin at welcome sa isa namang live stream. Mga kabatas natin, the confidential fund saga became more interesting. Why? Ito, yung sinabi ng Rappler, mga kabatas natin. Experts go to SC. Sara Duterte must return 125 million confidential funds. Okay. Ngayon, mga kabatas natin, medyo may ano rin, no? Alam niyo naman, itong Rappler, hate naman talaga yung mga taga Duterte, no? O yung mga Duterte. Alam naman na natin yan. That is not a secret to anyone. Di ba? Kaya nakita niyo naman yung choice of words nila. Experts go to SC. Meron ng taint agad na parang, oops, expert na yung nagsalita. Kasi ganyan din naman yung ginagawa nila nung may ibang tao dyan na ito, expert to sa ganyan, expert to sa ganyan, expert sa criminal law. Sige, kayo na yung expert. Kayo na. Di ba? So ito, maganda kasing gamitin yung expert. Pero tandaan yung mga kabatas natin, let's look at the argument still. And, syempre, this is something that we need to look forward to kung ano ang kalalabasan yan. Kasi nga, it's very interesting. And I am also very interested. Okay. Sabi ni Rico, 1 oras ang introduction. Oo nga eh. Para naman kasali kasi sa argumento yung pagiging expert. Naman ko, bahala kayo sa buhay nyo. Ito yung mga experts, mga kabatas natin. No? Sabi, the experts also question the constitutionality of Duterte's confidential funds she received in 2022. Anong keyword dyan? Constitutionality. Bakit kailangan nating mag-focus dyan sa word na constitutionality, mga kabatas natin? Kasi nga, alam nyo, kung yung ginawa na yon ay unconstitutional, it will be declared null and void and there will be reversal. Okay? Tingnan natin. Ito, good questions. Good question. Experts ba sila saan? Okay. Ito. A group of legal and economic experts filed on Tuesday, November 7, a petition before the Supreme Court to declare as unconstitutional Vice President Sara Duterte's confidential funds and asked the court to order the return of the 125 million fund. Okay. Alam nyo, pag nagastos na rin yung fund na yan, o yung funds na yan, mga kabatas natin, mahirap nang ibalik. Yun ang problema dyan. Okay, ito ang sinabi. Ito yung prayer, mga kabatas natin. Prayer ang tawag dito sa petition. It is most respectfully prayed that this honorable court declare the transfer of the amount of 125 million to the office of the Vice President as unconstitutional and the office of the Vice President be ordered to return the money to the government's treasury. Sinabi ng petition. Yan yung prayer niya. Okay, ito yung tanong nila. Sino yung mga experts? Ito, among the petitioners is economist Cielo Magno, who recently left her post as Finance Undersecretary after reportedly being asked to resign over her opposition to the Marcos government rice cap policy. Ito, si Cielo Magno, mga kabatas natin, siya yung nag-post na hindi niya gusto yung paglalagay ng rice cap o yung ceiling o yung presyo, no? Yung pinakamataas na presyo sa bigas. Yun nga, sinasabi, pinag-resign daw siya. Okay? Ngayon, mga kabatas natin, may naglagay dito. Sara versus Rafi. Mukha nga, no? Kasi under fire na si Sara eh. Sara Duterte. Mukhang, pero leading na kasi si Rafi. Magaling din, no? Kung talagang they are pulling Sara Duterte down na as early as now. Sabi ni Rico, ay wag naman. May wag naman. Aga ng demolition, sabi niya. Pero tulad ng sinabi ko, I don't refer to this one as a demolition naman. No? Kasi nga, the proper thing to do is to ask the Supreme Court. Di ba? The petition's main argument is that the transfer of confidential funds to the office of the Vice President was a clear usurpation of power of Congress. Yan. Alam niyo kasi mga kabatas natin, lagi kong ina-emphasize dito na meron tayong 3 branches of the government. Yung legislative branch, yung executive branch, at saka yung judiciary. Magkakaiba yung kapangyarihan niyan. Tapos, dapat hindi sila nag-usurp ng powers ng isa't isa. Okay. Ngayon, mga kabatas natin, syempre, sino ba yung nag-a-approve at nag-a-appropriate ng budget? Congress. Kaya nga merong budget hearing. Kaya yan ang sinasabi nila. Okay. Sabi niyang ganyan, sa isang legislative inquiry daw, no, medyo nagkainitan doon sa 2022 audit report. Na sinabi na yung 2022 national budget ay na-transfer sa Office of the Vice President na nagkakahalaga ng 125 million in confidential funds. Tapos, ito namang office daw ni Duterte, inispend o ginastos ito sa 11 days lang. Yung Office of the President, inapprove yung transfer, tapos nirelease naman ng Department of Budget and Management yung pondo. Sinabi nila na yung transfer daw from the national budget to the OVP is an exercise of legislative power. Transfer. Pero, alam nyo, allocation Medyo may question ako dito ha. Kasi sinasabi nila transfer Kung nangyari yung transfer na yan, at transfer nga ang sinasabi, ibig sabihin kasi parang ginamit yung pondo sa ibang paraan. Hindi ba may ibang kaso yon? Technical malversation? Kung ito yung titignan ko mga kabatas natin itong let's strictly focus dito sa article ng Rappler na ito because I did not read the petition and I don't have a copy of the petition. Kasi if there was, yun ang napag-aralan ko pero I'm not an expert. Tulad na sinasabi ko, hindi yung iba, katulad ng iba, expert yan. Mga expert sila ako, hindi ako expert, kaya please correct me if I'm wrong. Huwag nyo akong ipataob. Correct me if I'm wrong, huwag nyo akong ipataob. Huwag nyo pasabugin ako sa puso, okay? Huwag nyo akong padalahan ng bulaklak. Correct me if I'm wrong because I am not an expert. Hindi ba technical malversation ang tawag doon? Tignan natin ha. Ito. Actually, ito kasi, itong article na ito, binasa ko lang yung umpisa. Hindi ko nabasa hanggang dito. Kaya, ngayon ko lang ipapakita rin sa inyo ito. The elements of the offense, also known as technical malversation, sabi dito are, the offender is an accountable public officer. Yan yung number 1. So, public officer siya dapat. 'Di ba? Yung pondo dito, sinabi, pero syempre expert sila ha. Ako, sinasabi ko lang yung aking opinion. Pero technically, expert na rin dapat ako eh. Kasi nga, nagpakadalubhasa na ako dyan, nag-aral ako dyan. Pero syempre, kayo na lang ang expert. Okay? Okay. Tignan nyo. Petitioners argued that the transfer of funds from the national budget to the OVP is an exercise of legislative power. So, nasa national budget na yun. Hindi pa siguro. Pero ito. No? The offender is an accountable public officer. He applies public funds or property under his administration to some public use. Kasi nandoon na eh, di ba? May transfer eh. So, ibig sabihin na ipa-appropriate na siguro yun. Kasi hindi naman i-appropriate yung pondo na yan kung wala naman paglalaanan. Tapos, the public use for which the public funds or property were applied is different from the purpose for which they were originally appropriated by law or ordinance. Kasi hindi ka naman magkakaroon ng budget. Hindi ka magkakaroon ng particular na budget mula sa national budget kung hindi siya na-appropriate through a law or ordinance. So, ang nangyari, transfer nila yon national budget na yon. So, di ba, parang technical malversation yun? Sandali, hindi ko na ipakita yung yung citation. Baka magkalit sa akin yung mga tao. Sabi lang, mekos-mekos ka, attorney, ito. GR number 156427, January 20, 2006. Amando Tetanco versus Honorable Ombudsman and Mayor Jose L. Atienza Jr. Okay. Let's go. Like I said, I'm not an expert. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Okay. So, apparently, the appropriation done by the DBM is clear usurpation of the legislative power of the Congress of the Philippines to create and fund an item that has not been done so by the Congress itself. Okay. Ang pondo dito hindi pa wala pang inappropriate. Pero saan sila kumuha ng budget? Yan hindi ko maintindihan eh. Malacanang explained that the OP has the power under Special Provision Number 1 of the 2022 General Appropriations Act to approve releases to cover funding requirements of new or urgent activities or projects that need to be implemented or paid. O baka ito. Well, for this to work, like I said, no, opinion ko lang ito. For this to work, you have to declare this first. Special Provision Number 1 of the 2022 General Appropriations Act to be unconstitutional. Ito muna. Special Provision Number 1 of the 2022 National Budget says that contingent funds should be released only upon the approval of the Office of the President. But the petitioner said that this provision was not a permission for Congress to delegate its legislative power to the OP. Yun ang sinasabi nila. Kaya usurpation of power, wala pang allocation ng budget. Pero saan sila kumukuha? Nalilito ako. The appropriation by... what the heck? No, thanks. The appropriation by Executive Fiat in clear violation of the legislative intent does not fall under the delegated legislative power under the Special Provision Number 1 of the Contingent Fund in the General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 2022. So, nandun pa rin siya sa budget. Kasi nga, it is under a General Appropriations Act. Yung ang year 2022, tapos itong General Appropriations Act na ito ay isang batas. So, it was already legislated by Congress. Like I said, I'm not an expert, no? Pero I hope I tickle your minds, no? In addition, the petitioners also argued that the confidential funds do not fall under the funding allowed by the contingent fund. They said there were no allocations for the OVP's confidential funds in the first place. Ito nga, walang allocation. Kaya nga nagkaroon ng transfer. 'Di ba? Kaya nagkaroon ng transfer. Clearly, the transfer from the contingency fund of the Office of the President to an inexistent confidential. So it was already part of the contingency fund of the Office of the President. Ibig sabihin, it was already appropriated through a law. So, pwedeng pumasok ito. Because he applies public funds or property under his administration to some public use. Ang purpose nun, it was appropriated, and the purpose was as contingency fund of the Office of the President. Pero imbis na contingency fund of the Office of the President, pinuntang confidential fund ng Office of the Vice President. So, ibig sabihin, pwede rin na technical malversation, di ba? The petitioners were composed of legal experts and civil society leaders, including constitution framer Christian Monson. Theirs was a petition for certiorari, or one that questions the grave abuse of discretion by a government agency or official. Ito na. Like her father, Duterte's confidential funds have been questioned, for one, because confidential and intelligence funds are more difficult to audit as they are exempted from COA's standard procedures. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, iba na ito. Iba na ito. Obiter dictum. So, di ba? This case is interesting, like I told you. Pa-poll tayo, mga kabatas natin. Poll tayo. Bago tayo mag-end. Poll tayo. Press nyo 1 kung sa tingin nyo magpa-prosper itong kasong ito. No? Kung magpa-prosper o mag-grant yung petition nila, press 1. Pag hindi siya magpa-prosper o madi-deny o madi-dismiss yung petition nila, press 2. Tingnan nga natin. Press 1 kung magpa-prosper. Ibig sabihin, madi-declare as unconstitutional yung confidential funds na transfer noon, yung 125 million. Press 1. Pag press 2, ibig sabihin, madi-deny o mababasura itong petition na to. Wow, hating-hati ha. Maraming 2. 2, 1, 2. Wow. Wow. 2. Be honest, isang beses lang tayo ha. Almost 2 lahat. Hindi ko nabasa yung buong petition, pero tulad nga ng sinabi ko, if ever there is dapat may argument din dito na i-declare null and void or unconstitutional itong special provision number 2 of the 2022 national budget. They should start from there para magkaroon ng reversal. Panalo ang 2. Parang 60% to 50%. 40% 1. Let's watch out. Okay? Yeah, maraming salamat mga kabatas natin. At syempre, tulad na lagi yung sinasabi, matulog po tayo na mahimbing dahil alam natin na natutulog na mahimbing, siya yung laging panalo. Paalam po, pansamantala.